Welcome to the College Football Bros, the podcast of champions. And now, here are your hosts, Michael, Ryan, and Trey Newman.
Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the brother who loves Bofa.
Okay, that's me, Ryan Newman. I don't know what Bofa is.
Okay, right.
Well, you're lucky it stopped there.
You're lucky this is a PG podcast. I'm also joined by the other brother who wants CDs.
There's me, Trey Newman.
I'm going to have to look this up after pod.
I can't believe you've never
You
heard
don't know
Bofa?
Bofa?
Where have you been? Oh,
This is inappropriate?
Bofa D's. Anyway, get to today. We're going to give a few takeaways from week 15. We're going to discuss, of course, all the craziness on the coaching carousel. We thought it might not be a crazy offseason with that, but looks like it's happening. And then we'll preview the upcoming weekend and, of course, the playoff race. But first, we've got a couple announcements. I'm going to get to both announcements here. One is that we're going to put some more content on YouTube moving forward. So in addition to every week we put up a video version of the podcast, we're gonna try and have a short bonus episode to go a little bit deeper on a specific topic. This week, we're going to discuss the Auburn head coaching candidates, our top 5 favorite candidates for them. Hopefully they don't make a hire here right after we release it, but if they do, so be it. So yeah, be sure to subscribe, like our videos there. We'd appreciate that. And then also another way you can support us is on Patreon, because this Thursday at 8:30 Eastern, we're going to have a little holiday Zoom party. So we'll just talk football, hang out. One of our patrons, Kenny, from the Prospects 101 podcast, is going to be hosting a trivia night. So that should be fun. So yeah, hope to have some good turnout there. Again, that's patreon.com/collegefootballbros. $5 a month helps support us. And yeah, just a fun little community there. So that's actually one more announcement comes from Ryan, and it is from our sponsor.
Yes, our sponsor is myfrontpagestory.com. It's a great service. So what they offer is you will talk to one of their writers about a significant person in your life. Could be a spouse, could be your wife, your husband, mom, dad, grandma, grandpa, anybody that you just want to write a nice story about. And so you'll talk to a writer, and they will help you craft like a really neat story. And they'll, include quotes from your conversation that you have with them, about a 10-15 minute conversation that you have with the writer. And what they'll do, they'll write a cool story and they'll put it on like the front page of like a newspaper. So it'll look like just like it would on the front of a newspaper. They'll send it to you framed. It's a really kind of thoughtful gift. So the person that's receiving it obviously will really appreciate it. It's such a sentimental thing. They can hang it up in their house, something they'll always have to kind of remind them of one of those nice things that you did. So it's a great holiday gift, of course, but it's also great for any other time. It could be for a birthday. It could be, we got Valentine's Day coming up around the corner. So that would be a fantastic gift for that. So it's just something that's a really thoughtful gift. It's a real tearjerker if you're the one receiving it. So it's a great story. I mean, it's great gift, really thoughtful. So go to myfrontpagestory.com, use the promo code BROS20 to get 20% off of your purchase. And I'm actually setting mine up. I'm doing mine on Thursday. I have my conversation, my phone call set up with the writer there. So I'm looking forward to.
I can't wait to receive that. That's going to be great.
Oh, wow.
Just for you, Mike. But,
yeah.
Looking forward to doing that and getting. I've seen some of their work. It's really cool. So I know my surprise person will enjoy it.
All right. There we go. Myfrontpagestory.com, promo code BROS20. All right, let's get to college football now. We've got LSU at Florida. We got to go over from week 15. Just a crazy game. LSU, of course, won 37-34 in an uneventful manner. Just nothing.
Pretty typical.
Special, actually.
Yeah.
What'd you see here, Trey?
No, I mean, so if you're listening to us, you're a college football fan, you know what happened. But Marco Wilson throwing the shoe, getting the penalty when LSU was going to punt away towards the end of the game, is really one of the craziest things I've ever seen. And I immediately thought of the Austin Powers scene of who throws a shoe. That was my first one.
Same here.
But that also just that whole event also overshadows the fact that Cade York for LSU drilled a 57-yard field goal to win in the fog. It's just crazy. You know, we had to watch from the overhead spider cam because of all that fog.
Yeah.
He nails it. I mean, but the whole game, you could kind of see there were just moments where it felt like LSU's night. Earlier, that the interception that deflected off a hand, a helmet, and the guy laying on the ground and gets up. I mean, it was just the bounces were going their way. The post-game win expectancy on some metrics was like LSU had no shot to win if they replayed that game. Just the series of events and turnovers and throwing shoes is just it was destiny. But big picture, you know, Florida was a long shot to beat Bama, but the shoe throw could potentially cost them a shot at getting to the playoff if they were to.
Yeah,
absolutely. I feel for Florida, man. That's a tough way to lose a ball game. My goodness, especially considering that they were the better team. I mean, there's no doubt about it. They had nearly 200 more yards than LSU. They obviously were -3 also in turnovers, which, you know, one of them was extraordinarily lucky. And I feel for Marco Wilson. That was not a smart move. And then you guys see Dan Mullen's response to that. I mean, what's he going to say? It's a tough call, but like, you know, I threw a shoe. Like it was deserving of a penalty, man. He threw a shoe halfway down the field. That was not cool. So, anyways, I don't know. For Florida here, I know they lost the game to LSU, who's not a very good team. God, the committee rankings just came out, and I'm glad the committee didn't like drop them 10 spots or anything like that. I don't think that's deserving of, you know, one play or two plays. Florida was without Kyle Pitts, by far their best player. I guarantee you if they had Kyle Pitts, ball game would have looked a lot different. So brutal, but Florida's still maybe a top 5-6 team here. So I'm, you know, it's tough they lost.
They might be, as far as, you know, how good they are, because honestly, after this game, I don't feel like that different about them as a team, but they did lose, you know, even though Trey said it was, Bill Connolly had it 99.4% win expectancy for Florida, which was the highest, you know, of a team that lost all year. So yeah, I don't feel that much worse about them, but yeah, a loss to this year mediocre LSU team has to hurt like that, and it will. So we'll talk about Florida's playoff chances later in the episode. But sport, I think this lowered their chances of making the playoff. That's just my opinion.
Wow, it's bold.
Yeah, thank you.
Pretty bold.
All right, let's. We got a few more takeaways from Week 15, 2 each. Yeah. So Ryan, what do you got?
First one, I'm going to go with the North Carolina Miami game here. Just North Carolina just absolutely unloaded on the U. It was crazy. North Carolina had 778 total yards. That's insane. Because Miami, it's not like, I mean, this isn't like a crazy AAC or Pac-12 UCLA Wazoo game. No, this is the U here that's supposed to have a good defense. They had 554 rushing yards. They had one guy, Michael Carter, rush for over 300. Their other guy, Javonte Williams, ran for over 200. It's like it was just
most by two players from the same team in the same game ever.
Yeah,
and it actually broke. It's weird that record has been broken twice this year, and it's kind of past happy era. But the previous record was just a few weeks ago with Jarrett Patterson and whoever his backup
Mark.
is.
Well, yeah, true. Yeah,
Marks.
It was just utter annihilation. But you know, this Miami team, it kind of reminded me they were 8-1. You know, going into this game, they were top 10. You know, a good team, but it just kind of reminded me of the Mark Richt team they had a few years back with Malik Rozier, where they started 10-0, and Malik Rozier, right?
I was about to correct you.
But you know, that team wasn't that good. They ended up losing their last 3 games pretty handily. So this year just kind of felt similar. Like, okay, they were having a good record and stuff, but it's just they weren't that great. And I mean, I didn't expect this, but you know, I mean, I guess good for the U this year. They're kind of maxing out as many wins as they probably should. They've had a lot of close wins, but you know, they're just not a top 10 type team at all right now.
Okay.
Yep. My first one is pertaining to Friday night. We've had some entertaining Friday night games this year, but this past, last week we had the crazy Louisiana App State finish, but this past week though, there were 3 notable games. First, North Texas beat UTEP. That's not the story. The story is that there's a player that not many people know of, and that's wideout Jalen Darden. He's put up just ridiculous numbers this year. He had 173 in this game. He's got almost 1,200 yards in 9 games, 19 touchdowns in 9 games. He leads the country. That's just astounding.
I posted on Twitter, the only player with more receiving touchdowns in his first 9 games since probably ever is I think Corey Coleman from BYU from Baylor did it several years ago. Yeah.
Okay. I can see that. The other game, the second game, the Territorial Cup, Arizona. My goodness, ASU 70-7. It got Kevin Sumlin fired. But walk-on running back Jackson He scored, and he's believed to be the first Chinese-born player to score a touchdown in major college football. So that was pretty cool to see.
Very cool.
And then finally, one of our stories of the year on the podcast, San Jose State. They capped off an unbeaten regular season by beating Nevada, and they punched their ticket to the Mountain West title. We've talked about on this podcast for multiple weeks now the turnaround that they've had. Brent Brennan, coach of the year in the conference, coach of the year candidate nationally. They won a home game in Vegas since they had to leave because of COVID lockdown. So,
who's not playing in Vegas right now? They were. I was getting confused watching that game. It was like, says New Mexico in the field, then you got San Jose and
it's odd.
Somebody else playing, and then it's like, what?
Yeah, but a good Friday night.
All right. Well, my Saturday night was pretty good because USC is money in the fourth quarter this year.
Wow.
They were down 28-10 in the second half against UCLA. Ended up coming back to win, but it was crazy at the end. UCLA hit a go-ahead field goal. They were up 38-36 with 52 seconds left, but immediately USC gets a great return. Then they throw a deep ball to Tyler Vaughn's great catch there.
Great catch.
And then you're thinking, like, what do we do? Do we kind of run the ball, waste some clock, and kick a field goal to win? Well, apparently Keaton Slovis audibled into this, which is almost hard to believe, but he threw a fade to Amon-Ra St. Brown for the win. So that was pretty awesome. So at one point in this game, they had a 6.3. USC had a 6.3 percent win probability per ESPN. Earlier this year against Arizona, they had 14.9% in the fourth quarter. And against ASU, they were 0.1% late in the fourth quarter. So they've just had some miraculous comebacks. Keaton Slovis, since last year, 76% completions, 13 touchdowns, 0 interceptions in the fourth. It's ridiculous.
His career?
Yeah, that's astounding.
His career, yeah, exactly.
He's a freak. But I was actually curious about I'm generally curious. I don't know the answer, but USC in that scenario, you never see a team throw a fade like that. Most teams would just settle it and then kick a field goal. In the end, UCLA ended up getting a pretty good look at a Hail Mary, like at the 45-yardist. I'm just very curious to know what the odds would have been if they ran the clock down, kick a field goal. I don't know.
Well, USC didn't have any timeouts, right? USC didn't have any timeouts, right?
USC didn't.
No, we didn't have any timeouts. So it did make it a little dicey to run the ball and then have to spike. But if you could spike it with what I didn't want to do was have to spike it with under 10 seconds left, because then you risk a false start. Which is a 10-second runoff, game over. So I was worried about that. But you're right, Trey. I think like maybe running, just kind of centering the ball and then spiking it with like 15 seconds, kicking a field goal. Is that higher percentage? I don't know. But
it was when they threw the fade, you were kind of stunned because you're not used to seeing it, but it was awesome.
No, I was not expecting it.
The good thing was UCLA had to score a touchdown on the return back, so if they were going to go up like 1, 2, or 3 USC and that end zone thing, I probably would have changed my mind. Like, maybe you should have done like waited. But since UCLA had to go score a touchdown, I think USC probably handled it right. Like, just go score a touchdown, go up by, make UCLA go the whole field, and that's 30 seconds or whatever it was. So
yeah, good. All right, what else you got, Ryan?
All right. Okay, my second takeaway is I think maybe we all jumped the gun a little bit here on Wisconsin's freshman quarterback, Graham Mertz. Obviously, that first game against Illinois, he was practically perfect. He was like 20 of 21, had 5 touchdowns, just lit up Illinois. I was like, wow, they don't miss Jack Cohn at all. This guy's legit. because he was a big recruit, and you thought, okay, it'd be fit right in well. And then his second game against Michigan was still pretty good. He had 2 touchdowns, no picks as well. But then the last 3 games, he has been really bad. He's completed about 55% of his passes, 1 touchdown, 5 picks. Of course, they've lost all these games. The level of competition stiffened a little bit, sure, but I mean, he is just not looked nearly like we thought he kind of would in the first game or two. And I think we all jumped the gun a little bit. He's still a freshman. I mean, I think he's going to be good in the long run. It's been a weird year, but
needs some better skill talent around him too.
Yeah, he needs more talent around him for sure. But he's still got some holes in his game right now.
Speaking of quarterbacks, Georgia and JT Daniels, they're a different team with him at quarterback now. I'm aware they haven't played Murderers Row in the SEC, but in his 3 games that he started, he's 67%, 9 touchdowns, 1 pick. Just when you watch it, he's just a clear upgrade from Mathis and Bennett from earlier in the year. Just last week, they just destroyed a top 25 Missouri team on the road, and the defense, they held Missouri, a good running team, to 22 yards on 22 carries. So if I'm a Georgia fan, earlier in the year, I'm concerned. I'm like, wow, this is not good. We're falling behind. But all of a sudden, you now have to be pretty excited going into 2021 that you've got a chance, especially with the full offseason with JT Daniels.
Yeah, agreed. He's been better than I thought he would be. As I saw a lot of him at USC, and wasn't super impressed his freshman year. Of course, he was a true freshman, and not the best offense, but yeah, he's gotten a lot better. He's been good.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's why Georgia, I think some people are underrating as far as some people have a little tough time with them being in the top 10, but
yeah,
they are definitely a top 10 team with JT Daniels, no doubt about it.
Mm-hmm. And their strength of record, I think, is like 10th or so. So I don't know.
The 2 losses are to Florida and Bama. So let's cut them some slack here.
All right, Western Michigan, Ball State. We got to bring that up. This nearly one of the craziest endings of all time, because this is a play-in game for the MAC championship, so there were some stakes here. So Ball State had a 30-27 lead. If you haven't watched it, you just got to Google it and watch it. But last play of the game for Western Michigan, last chance, they started from midfield, and they had 15 laterals in the play. At one point, the ball kind of hits the ground, and it's in between a few players. So Ball State just rushes the field. They think someone recovered it.
Worst thing for the defense in that situation. Everybody thinks the game's over always.
Exactly. So it's not over though. No one's blown a whistle. Western Michigan picks it up. They keep going, more laterals. And at one point, like 2 Ball State players are pretty much hugging the Western Michigan player with the ball, but they're not really trying to take him down. They're kind of like half like, is this play still going or not? And it was. And so he pitched it again, and they ran for a touchdown. Referee signals touchdown. Unbelievable. Western Michigan's going to the MAC championship, but there was a flag. There was 1 forward pass on the play, illegal forward pass, barely, but it did look to be forward. So, that was insane.
Unbelievable.
It's crazy how so many people just don't grasp the if it's going backwards and hits the ground. Like, it happens all the time.
Yeah, people seem to think often it's like, it's incomplete or something.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
just give up as the ball goes down. It's like, not at all.
Yeah. Anyway, also got to bring up Sarah Fuller going 2 for 2 on extra points. Their game got canceled this weekend, so looks like her career's over. But that's pretty cool. She got the chance to score points for a Power 5 team. Never happened.
I'm glad she got to score after last week only being.
Yeah, I know, right?
God, that's awesome. Yeah. Army beat Navy too.
Let's yep, exactly. Let's get to the coaching carousel is our segment today. So first off, one team that it doesn't look like will be taking a spin in the carousel is Texas. Athletic director Chris Del Conte announced that Tom Herman will remain their head coach. Do you guys think that's the right decision?
Personally, I do. I'm not writing Herman off. Sure, at this point in his tenure, they're maybe not exactly where you thought they would be, but Texas is better since he got there. They just haven't taken that next step that obviously a lot of Longhorn fans want, and a lot of college football fans think they should. But I just personally feel it might be a little too soon to pull the plug and, give it another year to see how it can develop. And I don't like it when schools have quick triggers on decisions like this. And if it's really true that Urban declined, which we don't know that, but if there's kind of rumors out there, then it's even a wiser move, because it could have been one of those cases where the grass isn't always greener on the other side.
Yeah. I agree. I do think this is the right call. I agree. I still think he can succeed. Obviously their game against Kansas was canceled, but had that game played, they would have finished 7-3, with 3 pretty kind of heartbreaking losses. It's not like they were getting outclassed. Like they weren't, OU wasn't beating them by like 30. They went to overtime against OU and barely lost. Right. So they are an overtime win away. Well, I guess they lost, but an overtime game away from being in the Big 12 championship game. But, they flipped that game against OU and they're in. So, and then of course you go back to the TCU game where they fumbled on the 1 yard line. Keontae Ingram fumbled on the 1 yard line, about to go in to score a touchdown the last minute or two of the game. Boom, they lose that game. So they're right there to being in a very, very, very good spot. So and we're not having this conversation if those two things change. So it's I know, hey, they lost the game. Okay, whatever. People always make that argument, but it's just like, it's kind of a little Jim Harbaugh thing for the previous 4 or 5 years. Like he was always so close. Hard to do it.
Yeah.
Although it's not the best argument now. It's Michigan stinks, but
right. Well, and you just like with Texas, you look at their, say their power rating or their rating and predictive metrics. They're not where they should be with your Texas, but they're not. It's not that bad. And like you said, Trey,
Sky isn't falling.
Yeah, exactly. So I think one more year. This is a weird year. New coordinators on both sides of the ball. So I'd say give him one more year, save some money.
Yeah.
You couldn't get Urban Meyer anyway, and I don't know. It just kind of makes sense to give it one more shot. I think
his 2018, 2019 recruiting classes, which those guys will be 3rd and 4th year players next year. Those classes were both ranked 3rd nationally, so they're still kind of on the younger side this year. They're going to be the team next year. 3rd nationally. That's some elite talent that they're going to have leading their squad. But if you go back the year before that, 2017, so the guys that were like seniors mainly this year, those guys were 25th ranked, according to 24/7 Sports. So that's a massive difference there. Mm-hmm. So I think this next coming year is like, okay, he's got all his talent. There's really no excuses at all. Top rank recruits, your guys that you've had for a long time, put up or shut up for real. I think he deserves at least one more year.
Yeah, we kind of thought this year was the put up or shut up, but he kind of put up just enough in a weird year.
Exactly, he did, and it's a weird year. So,
all right, let's get to the firings though. The big one, of course, Gus Malzahn has finally been fired after rumors for years. After going 4 in the SEC this year. So my thoughts are he did a good job overall in his tenure. He nearly won a national championship in year 1. He beat Saban a few times. Just a few years ago, 2017, they were a game away from making the playoff. They were in the SEC title. And he always seems to have one of the toughest schedules in the country, with tough out of conference and of course playing in the SEC West. So I think his 1-loss records, you can kind of chop off a loss every year, and that would kind of be more fair depiction. But so having said all those things, I'm still okay with it because it might have just gotten stale. The fans aren't happy with him. If the boosters are willing to put up $20 million to have him go away, then and start fresh with someone new, then I don't have a big problem with it.
I think the nail in the coffin was the Iron Bowl, where they just got smoked and they were outclassed. But I personally, I don't know. I don't feel like you make a move like this and spend all this money if you don't know who you're getting. Like, they better make a splash hire, because like with Texas, I don't know if the grass is always greener on the other side. Like, Auburn is it's a really good job, but it's really tough when you consider they're in the same state as Alabama. They're playing the SEC West, and their crossover every year is Georgia. Like, that's tough sledding. So it's just, I feel like whoever comes in, the only success for a new coach is basically winning the SEC, and that's a tall order right there. I mean, but I do hear the argument that maybe it's a little stale and whatnot. But I hope they nail the hire.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
it's tough. I mean, he was winning he's averaged more than 8 wins per year. With some Michael said, with some routinely brutally tough schedules. Like, like last year, they played 7 ranked teams. That's a lot of ranked teams. They beat Alabama last year in the Iron Bowl. They won 9 games. I mean, that was a really, really good year in 2019 that Auburn had. Even this year, I know they got whooped by Bama, but who hasn't gotten whooped by Bama? They were 6-4 and against only SEC teams. And, if you have a non-conference kind of like usual, that's, an 8-4, 9-3 type of team. And, we knew going into this year, at least a lot of most reasonable people that follow really closely, Auburn probably wasn't going to be that great this year. This probably wasn't going to be Gus's best team with the amount of talent that they lost in the trenches. I knew they had a quarterback coming back, but the trenches are kind of the main deal. If you lose all that, it doesn't matter who your quarterback is. So, he's got really good past few recruiting classes. The talent's still going to be really good coming in next year. So I don't know. I may be in the minority here, but I think they should have kept him. I think he's done a good job. I think with, like Trey said, what do you expect? I mean, he competes every now and then for an SEC West title. Are you expecting people to, come in and win the SEC routinely? That's not reasonable. So, okay. I think he's done a good job. I think it's a little unfair. Trey's always been in his
I know.
corner.
I've been a homer, but this is a tough gig.
I also
did not realize, though, to Michael's point, he has lost 4 games every year except for that very first year. Granted the tough schedule, but I was a little surprised to see that. Yeah. I thought it was a little bit better.
Okay, well, that was good to get kind of both sides of the argument there. How about candidates? Because I agree. Like, if you fire Gus Malzahn, you better bring in a pretty good coach, because I think Gus Malzahn is pretty good. So we're going to go more in depth in this in our YouTube video, but Hugh Freeze, Billy Napier, and Mario Cristobal, I think, are maybe the 3 best candidates that have been thrown out as highly likely, candidates. Kevin Steele, the current defensive coordinator, is getting some buzz. Apparently has
a lot of buzz
from boosters. That, to me, would be very underwhelming. Not that he can't be successful, like we always say, but like, you're getting rid of Gus Malzahn and you're hiring the defensive coordinator, who I know was a long time ago, but his previous head coaching stint was at Baylor, where he went 1-31 in big. I don't know. I mean, it like I say, it could work out, but I would be underwhelmed.
I would totally be underwhelmed, and he's been part of the Auburn culture that's been in the program the last however long Malzahn's been there, 7-8 years. But that would be
been there for, I don't know.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, but still, he's still part of this recent regime. So, anyways, that would be crazy. I think Hugh Freeze would be intriguing, just because we saw what he did at Ole Miss. Obviously, there were some sanctions, but he's proved at Liberty that he can succeed. He knows how to coach up an offense. It'd be kind of ironic because his quarterback this year was an Auburn transfer, Malik Willis, who did really great. So it'd be kind of there'd be some irony if he goes to the Plains. So there's some other names. Matt Campbell, where the bros all love Matt Campbell from Iowa State. Best program stretch in history there. No reason to think he couldn't succeed somewhere else. Any other names you think about, Ryan?
Steve Sarkisian.
Yeah.
I mean, leading a couple of the best offenses ever at Alabama. So it wouldn't be a bad hire. That's about them. I mean, I've seen Bill Clark thrown out there, but he didn't really, I don't know if he really has a shot at it, but I mean, there's a good list of coaches that, the guys we've named. I like the names. So Kevin Steele, like we said, kind of doesn't really excite me, but I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah. Just to correct myself, Steele's been there since 2016. So a while. All right. How about let's move on to Arizona. Kevin Sumlin is out, like we said, after losing 70
touch on the thoughts on this.
What's that?
Do we need to really talk about the thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think it was fair. What candidates do you like, Ryan?
Yeah. Candidates, Brent Brennan, killing it right now at this year at San Jose State. I mean, if you have success at San Jose, that's saying something. 2 other guys that I'm kind of thinking of, Kalen DeBoer. We all like him, former Indiana offensive coordinator, kind of turned them around offensively, and then has done a decent job at Fresno. And my last guy I'll go with is Alex Grinch, the OU defensive coordinator. He's obviously led a resurgence there for the OU defense. Did a wonderful job at Wazoo, as we know, so he's familiar with Pac-12. I think he'd be a good hire, and they obviously need a fix on that side of the ball. So
Yeah.
Grinch would be a good one for that.
One guy you didn't bring up, Jay Norvell at Nevada. He's obviously done a good job there. Even Sarkisian, if he wants to come back to the Pac-12, that could be a good hire. Offensive coach.
That'd be a
Sean
great
Lewis.
hire for Arizona, I think.
It would, yeah. I think so. Sean Lewis from Kent State, another offensive guy who's done a great job. So I don't know. With the job like Arizona, I feel like the bar's a little bit lower in terms of the hire. I think there's quite a few guys that would be. I mean, Brian Harsin would be kind of a dream hire if he's willing to take.
I would like Harsin. Back to Sumlin though. I'm so willing to admit here, like I was so wrong on him. I thought he was the perfect hire for U of A, not maybe some major program, but like especially when he inherits Khalil Tate. Like I did not see this coming at all. I just proves that I obviously don't know everything. But there's another name that I saw, which was kind of surprising. It was Joe Salavea, the Oregon's defensive coordinator. He played at Arizona. He's actually one of the betting favorites early, which is kind of surprising because his name doesn't get thrown out there that much. But and Michael, what about Graham Harrell?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Graham Harrell from offensive coordinator at USC. He's done a very good job there. That would be a good hire too.
So yeah, there's a lot of decent candidates for U of A there.
All right, Lovie Smith, the last firing we got here. Lovie Smith is out at Illinois. Do you think that was fair to get rid of him, Trey?
I do. They just, outside of a couple surprising wins the last few years, Illinois they weren't trending forward enough, and there wasn't enough excitement about the program. And on the other side, this is one that I could have told you about. Like didn't seem like there was much juice with this hire for the long run. But I'll give you a couple of names. You mentioned earlier, Michael, Sean Lewis, the young hot name from Kent State, nearby, could be fun. He's obviously turned around Kent State from rock bottom. Jim Leonard, Wisconsin's defensive coordinator, he's led a great Badger defense the last few years, similar or familiar with the Big Ten.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Lovie Smith, if being fired was the right call. I agree with that. I think we can kind of agree that Luke Fickell's maybe a pipe dream for Illinois.
They should call him. Give it a shot.
They should.
I mean, give it a look. But I think Fickell's going to hold out for a little bit better gig than that. I've heard Brett Bielema being thrown out there. I've seen some references to him. I think he's with the Giants right now. I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily hate it if I was Illinois. Another guy that was been thrown out, I know, is Cincinnati's defensive coordinator, Marcus Freeman. If you can't get Fickell, maybe go to the next guy right behind him. Marcus Freeman, who's done a fantastic job, obviously, with that really, really good Cincy defense. So,
yeah, Lance Leopold from Buffalo, another guy that has won everywhere he's been, so would be a good hire. All right, let's get to some teams that have made their coaching hires. Blake Anderson has left Arkansas State to become the head coach at Utah State to replace Gary Anderson. You could debate which is the better job between those two gigs, Arkansas State and Utah State, but it from the reporting, it's like Blake Anderson needed a change of scenery. Of course, his wife passed away, and might have just needed to go to a different spot. And I think it's a good hire for Utah State. State under Anderson. This year was a down year, but the previous 6 years he'd been there, 7, 8, 9 wins every year.
Yeah, I like that hire.
Yep. Next one is Butch Jones is now Arkansas State's head coach. He's replacing Anderson. I think it's a decent hire. I'm not giving it an A+, but I think it's solid. He's had success at the group of 5 level, Cincinnati, Central Michigan. He had moments at Tennessee, and now we've kind of seen how difficult it is to win, over the past 20 years or so there for the Vols. And he's been with Saban at Alabama in the last couple of years, so I like it.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's a good one. I got Kane Womack here, the Indiana's defensive coordinator. He's the new head coach over at South Alabama. Last couple of years, Indiana defense, I mean, they got better and better. So I don't see why this wouldn't be a good hire for South Alabama. This past year for Indiana, they're giving up less than 20 points per game. That's pretty impressive for Indiana. And his 2 years that he was D coordinator, they improve 5 points per game each year. So that's some steady progress that you'd like to see. I don't see why it's not a good hire.
Yeah, and I think he was on the South Alabama staff before, so he
Yeah,
knows
he was.
knows the program.
Yep.
Okay, last hire we have is Clark Lee, Notre Dame's defensive coordinator, is now the head coach at Vanderbilt. And it makes some sense. He played at Vanderbilt, did a great job with Notre Dame's defense the last few years. To me, it's not super exciting. It kind of feels like the Derek Mason hire. Doesn't mean it's going to work out the same way. It just kind of has that same feeling as it's happening. It's just always hard to judge a guy who hasn't been a head coach. Even it's hard to judge when guys have been head coaches. So
Yeah.
Who knows? But I personally would have preferred Will Healy. I feel like he would have brought more excitement initially to the program, kind of proven culture builder as a head coach. But people have good things to say about Lee. So
yeah,
we will see. All right. Let's get to championship week upcoming this weekend. And let's first break down the playoff scenarios before we talk about the specific matchups. So we'll go in order of the top teams. Trey, why don't you start us out with Alabama? What are their chances of making the playoff?
Yeah. So obviously if they win against Florida, they're the number 1 seed. And really, unless they lose by 100 and Mac Jones gets hit by a car, they're in, but just at a lower seed. Well, yeah, that was dark.
Yeah, no, agreed. Alabama in no matter what. So, all right, Notre Dame next. Florida's loss makes them safer for sure. So if Notre Dame wins, they're obviously in. They're undefeated. If they lose, they're still probably in because I don't think one loss A&M is going to jump them. And 2-loss Florida SEC champion. I also don't think so, Ryan. I mean, we can.
No, I agree with you there. I'm in the same boat.
Well, I know you disagree, Ryan, but so I think maybe if they get blown out, A&M can somehow pass them, but I think it's unlikely.
Yeah, maybe not even then.
Yeah.
Clemson, the third team here. Obviously, if they win, they are in. There's just no debating. They lose, they'd have 2 losses, of course, to Notre Dame. I won't say they're completely out for sure, but it'd be an uphill battle. So this is kind of the debate here that I was thinking of. Let's say Alabama, Notre Dame in because they whatever. Ohio State wins undefeated, they're in. That's 3 for sure. And then you got Clemson 2-loss, A&M 1 loss. Who are you putting in?
Who's in between those?
Yeah, 2-loss Clemson, 1 loss A&M.
I feel like we talked about this last week, and I had just assumed, okay, 2-loss Clemson, they're out. I don't know. I mean, I'm not willing to bet my life on that because Clemson will have 2 losses. Let's say it's close. 2 close losses to the number 2 team in the country.
Yep.
And one of them was without, several key players, including their starting quarterback.
Then you have to look at who's their best win.
It's true. It's true. They don't have Miami, I guess.
I think Clemson is better than A&M, but you could say A&M's got that win over Florida that would weigh over something Clemson done. I don't know if it.
No, I agree with you. I think that's why I think A&M would get in. I think their resume and losses would definitely be better.
Both of them would love if Ohio State lost to Northwestern.
Well, sure, yeah, sure. But I guess it sounds like overall our answer is A&M would get in, but we wouldn't bet our life on it there.
Right, it's close.
Just because the committee could lean on it. We just think Clemson's a lot better.
Right. It'd be splitting hairs. All right. I've got Ohio. Is it me?
Oh, wait, no, let me talk about A&M here. We
got Ohio State. So they're sitting in a pretty good spot, especially considering they've only played 5 games up to this point. But assuming they beat Northwestern, they're most likely in. But just to be safe, they'll be rooting for Notre Dame to beat Clemson just to kind of avoid two ACC teams in there. Their worst case scenario is if Clemson beats Notre Dame and Florida kind of puts it to Bama. Then you're got to deal with Florida versus Ohio State. I still think Ohio State would get in, but it would just be an added element because the committee they love conference championships, and if you win the SEC against number 1 team, but anyways, I'm very confident Ohio State will beat Northwestern and they'll be in.
Yeah, agreed. All right, so A&M, so they're the 5th team right now in the rankings. So, and let's assume they beat Tennessee for this argument. So they just need to pass one team. They're not passing Bama. That's not happening.
Notre Dame.
They could pass Notre Dame, I talked about, but I doubt it. So let's say they can't pass those teams. So they need to hope for Clemson to lose. And we're having these discussions over and over again, but I think they'd get in over a 2-loss Clemson. But
Be close. Yep.
Or they need, even better, I think, would be Ohio State losing, because they are, I have to say, definitely getting in over 1-loss Ohio State. Ohio State just would not have the resume.
There's no doubt.
Even though we think they're really, really good, they'd be out.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what they have to hope for. One of those two things to happen: Clemson losing or Ohio State losing.
Yep. Yeah, could happen. No doubt could happen.
All right. So are there any scenarios for teams other than what we've listed? I guess we talked about Florida a little bit. Does anyone want to expound on that?
Well, if Clemson loses, you'd have 2-loss Clemson, and if Ohio State loses as well, I think well, this is getting a little into the nitty gritty here, but you would have like almost 4 teams here. So you got 2-loss Clemson, 1-loss Ohio State, 1-loss A&M, 2-loss Florida. That's the SEC champ. I feel like Ohio State
A&M could lose to Tennessee.
That's the thing.
True.
I think Florida needs that. Let's have the Florida A&M discussion, because Florida, they're going to have to pass A&M if they want to get in, I think.
Fair enough.
I don't think a 2-loss Florida is going to pass a 1-loss A&M, because even though Florida's the SEC champ, they would have beaten Bama, the best team in the country. They would have a win against Georgia, but they'd have a loss to LSU, which is a bad loss. And even worse, almost than the LSU loss, is A&M, because that's the team they're trying to argue against. So I don't know, Ryan, we had this discussion a little bit before the podcast.
Yeah.
You think 2-loss Florida could pass? I mean, could. Do you think they would pass?
I think they could.
A&M?
It's such a tough call. I just have such respect for a team like Florida that would have beaten Alabama, that would say like, wow, are you serious? Like one of the best teams we've seen in a long time. Bama's just rolling everybody, and Florida beat them. I mean, and their 2 losses were heartbreaking fashion, where they were missing their best player in one game in the fog, guy threw a shoe. And then A&M was obviously a close loss at the end. Like, I think I could forgive that when you tell me that they just beat Alabama, the best team in the country. So I think it would be more impressive than anything that A&M has done. I personally would put Florida in over a 1-loss A&M, but I'm not on a committee. I guess it'd be close, man. I'm telling you, it'd be close.
It'd be close. I think I side personally, and I think the committee would side with A&M. I mean, 1 loss, and they beat Florida.
They're really the
Florida
only,
up relatively high.
They're the only team though that has a chance with some chaos. There's some other teams like Oklahoma, Iowa State, winner, and Cincinnati. Like, even if there's kind of pure chaos, I don't see a path for them to really get up there, unfortunately, especially the Big 12, they each have 2 losses. Like,
definitely not. Cincinnati is like 100% out pretty much,
which is unfair. Yeah.
Iowa State. I mean, do you think so? Say they need to pass 2 teams. They're 6th. Iowa State needs to pass 2 teams. So they crush OU. Do you think that would be enough to get them over A&M? 1 loss, probably not.
No,
I don't think so. I think they need Tennessee. Yeah, then it's
A&M loses
and Ohio State to lose, and
Ohio State loses. So then you're jumping 2 teams. Like, that could happen.
Are they jumping Ohio State for sure?
It's not for sure,
Ohio State. Not for sure, but
I think a lot of people are like, Ohio State's body of work wouldn't be that impressive if they lost to Northwestern.
It would be very unimpressive.
So I think that's true. I guess that's true. Iowa State has a shot if there's some chaos.
Yes. Or I guess you could replace Oklahoma in there. I feel like if Oklahoma wins, they maybe make a similar shot. Yeah. But anyway, all right. That's that. Hey, how about USC? Come on, guys. Come on.
Hey, did you see the odd 49% chance makes play? And then miraculously it went up to 50 like an hour later for no reason.
Yeah, ESPN's FPI playoff predictor is very, very off. USC has basically 0% chance. So which I'm fine with. I know they'll be if they win, they'll be undefeated, and their strength of record will be good, but just haven't looked impressive in
like your
compiling their
stats
record,
that
so.
you showed earlier, you talked about earlier in the pod, like
Yeah.
99.9%, 1%, 8%. Like, yeah,
Hasn't been impressive. All right. Let's get to the conference championships. So we'll start with on Friday, we've got the MAC championship, Ball State against Buffalo. Buffalo's favored 13.5 at Ford Field in Detroit. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a big spread here for MAC title game. 13.5 is a lot. And for that reason, I'm going to go with Ball State. I'm going to go with the team, Drew Plitt, QB. He's had a good year, good passing QB for them. They've won 5 in a row. The last 3 they won against Toledo, Central Michigan, and Western Michigan. All 3 good teams, 2 of them on the road. So they're a proven team. They're a good, solid squad. I just don't expect them to, get their doors blown off. Even though Buffalo has pretty much done that to every team they've played this year, but I think Ball State will be their stiffest challenge yet. So yeah, I'll take Drew Plitt to keep it interesting.
Yeah, because you touched on Buffalo. They've just been mauling teams on their schedule, but they've been the beneficiary of playing 2 of the worst teams in the country, Bowling Green and Akron. If this game falls at all on Van Treese and not the running game, then that's where they're at least the most vulnerable. We obviously know
It's
about
a big if, got to say.
Yeah, I know.
Jared
I know.
Patterson
Does have a good defense.
And Plitt can spin it. He's got one of the best names in football, Johannes Tyler. I say Ball State covers as well, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree with you guys. It does hurt that their star running back Caleb Huntley opted out for this game, but I think their offense has enough to hang in there. Let's get to the Pac-12 championship, also on Friday. It is not Washington against USC because Washington had to cancel.
That was my pick.
Oh yeah, you picked Washington to win the Pac-12 this year?
Yeah.
Tough luck. I had a 25-1 ticket on them, so that was real tough luck for me.
Wow. We're both hurting.
But anyway, the second place team in the North, Oregon, will be taking on USC in the Coliseum, and the Trojans are favored 3.5. Trey?
Yeah, my eyes tell me SC is better, but some of the numbers and metrics point me to Oregon. Oregon's defense has been a disappointment this year, but the run defense has been the main issue. Lucky for them, SC hasn't been overly effective with the ground game, particularly because they have Keaton Slovis and a stud group of receivers. So it's not entirely that. But and then when you look at SC's defense, I don't love the defense as a whole. I really do like watching Talanoa Hufanga. He's a stud there.
He's amazing.
But overall, yeah, he's great. He's made a lot of great plays this year. Overall, though, SC, I just feel they've been very fortunate, really clutch in 3 of their wins, to their credit. So I could see another close game. So I'm going to take the 3.5 for Oregon, but I think SC can pull out another squeaker.
Yeah, these teams seem pretty similar to me in terms of skill level. The only difference being that USC won its close games and Oregon didn't. But I see this one being close. I think both offenses will have success against underwhelming defenses, and Oregon is coming off of a bye, whereas USC is on a short week. So I'll take 3.5.
I'm going to take the Trojans here. I think they have the big edge at the QB position. I'm not impressed with Shuck. He hasn't been bad, but Keaton Slovis has been very, very good. Michael mentioned those numbers. 4th quarter stats in his career has been amazing. He's got more weapons. I trust USC's offense. I know they don't run the ball really at all, but that's okay. It's air raid. You don't really need to. All right, you got 3 incredibly good receivers, incredibly good quarterback. I think they'll be able to move the ball early and often against that Duck defense. So I think they can cover that 3.5.
All right. Moving on to Saturday, we got the Big Ten Championship. Nebraska against Ohio State.
Oh, wow.
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go.
Oh, man. What a shame. We were this close. Northwestern.
Nebraska Rutgers isn't the Big Ten title game?
No, yeah, Nebraska Rutgers. Northwestern against Ohio State. Buckeyes favored 20.5 in Indianapolis. And that's a lot of points to give against a great Northwestern defense. I'm going to do it. This Ohio State offense is just unfair with Justin Fields and all the weapons. I'm going to roll with them. I think they can put up 35 plus on just about anyone. Ryan Day has had a week off to get ready for this one. And the big reason I like Ohio State is that their one kind of main weakness with that secondary and the pass defense is not something that Northwestern with their receivers is well equipped to take advantage of.
I 100% agree. They cannot take advantage of that flaw in Ohio State. That Peyton Ramsey in that offense it's pretty pedestrian, and they're just not going to be able to put up enough points to match the Buckeyes. Northwestern's defense is sweet, and they're not going to make it easy on Justin Fields. But Ohio State, they got a point to prove to get in the playoff. They're going to make that statement, I think, especially having a couple weeks off here. I'm actually going to make them my lock, given all these points.
Sorry, my car is a little messed up there.
Oh, yeah. Whoa, take it to the shop.
Yeah.
I'm going the other way, guys. I'm taking Northwestern. Okay. I like that. That's a ton of points, man. Kind of like when Northwestern went up against the Badgers and they were pretty solid underdogs. The Northwestern just knows how to muck it up. Their defense is really good. They'll shorten the game, take advantage of mistakes. And Ohio State, they've shown flaws. They've shown flaws this year. Indiana, of course, made that very, very interesting. And Ohio State was supposed to be ready to go for that one. They needed to make a statement in that one, and ended up being a nail biter at the end. So 20.5, give me Northwestern with that great defense. I definitely think they can keep it there. So I'm taking the Wildcats.
All right. Big 12 championship, Oklahoma -5.5 against Iowa State in Jerry World. Back to you, Ryan.
All right. Yeah, I'm taking the Cyclones. How can we not? This is going to be a great game though, just because both these teams have been playing extraordinarily well. They're not limping in at all. They're not backing into it at any point. They're both playing their best football right now. But I just see this as almost a toss up. Iowa State has been very, very good. Of course, Iowa State beat them earlier in the year. Brock Purdy has played his best football. Their defense has picked it up in the last part of the year. I just don't see a huge gap between these two teams. I know OU's defense picked it up since when Iowa State first played. But again, Iowa State's better. So you give me 5.5 when Iowa State already beat them. Yeah, I think this is going to be right there. So give me the Cyclones.
Yeah, I'm with you on the Cyclones. I know Oklahoma in their last half dozen games have been playing like we kind of all thought they would in the beginning of the year, maybe even better, as that defense has been improving, as we alluded to. But I will say, granted that the Cyclones haven't had the toughest stretch lately, they've been pretty impressive. West Virginia, I think, is a pretty good team. They just annihilated them, and I guess you could argue at Texas is a pretty good one. So now I think about it, not too bad of a slate recently. I know they're new to this Big 12 title thing, but I'm just impressed with them. I like their moxie. Coach Campbell, Purdy and Hall have been stepping up. So I think I'll take the points with the Clones.
I am with you guys. It's just going back the last few years of Campbell's tenure, it feels like they're always playing pretty close games with Oklahoma, and this is probably Campbell's best team. So yeah, taking the points. Moving on to
say I don't like OU. I mean, I really do like OU. Just high on both these teams, So
yeah, agreed. I mean, OU was, I think, all of our picks in the preseason to win the Big 12 title. So
yeah, I think so.
No surprise. Really bold call by us if that's the case.
Yeah,
good workout.
So the one game we're gonna break down a little bit here that is not a championship game is Texas A&M at Tennessee, because of course it's relevant to the playoff. A&M is favored 14. What do you think, Trey?
Yeah, the A&M, of course, they want to make that last statement for the committee if they do get that opportunity. Then with the Vols, there's a lot of unrest in the fan base. They want Pruitt gone. They had 6 double-digit losses before beating Vanderbilt last week. They kind of have musical chairs at quarterback, but it's been a 2-quarterback system lately with the young guys, Harrison Bailey and JT Shrout. They've shown a glimmer of hope for Vols fans, and I just don't think A&M is playing their best ball right now. They could have easily lost to Auburn a week ago. Mond really struggled against LSU a couple weeks prior to that. I'm going to take the 2 touchdowns with the Vols.
Okay. I mean, this line seems about right to me. I don't really know who to pick, but I guess I'll lay the points with that A&M running game. And just because I'm kind of cheering for it, because A&M winning and winning big kind of does 2 things. It makes the playoff debate more interesting, and it makes Tennessee kind of like Jeremy Pruitt could be in some trouble if they get blown out here and they're sitting. What would their record be? I don't even remember what they're
3-7.
Yeah, is that right? So
After
that's
year
that'd be
2,
pretty rough.
getting kicked to the curb after year 2, that'd be pretty tough.
It would be quick, but if they
Yeah.
think they can go, then they might do it.
Yeah, no, it's fair. It's true.
Stranger things have happened.
Yeah, for sure. Willie Taggart.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Michael.
Also, by the way, is this not his third year? This is Pruitt's third year, I think.
Wow.
Am I crazy?
I've
So he went. He
last year I thought because he finished so strong. I thought he was.
he finished so strong to go 8-5 or whatever he went, but I thought that was year 2. Year
Look it
1,
up
he maybe. I'm gonna look it up right now. It's crazy that we're
I
not.
thought
right
this is his second year, but
I could be wrong.
Yeah, me too. I'm gonna go with you, Mike, on this one. I'm gonna take A&M. I think A&M's defense. I mean, that's a good D line. One of the best D lines in the country. Honestly, I think it's pretty underrated.
Yeah, he went 5-7, 5-7 year 1. So.
Oh crap.
Yeah. Anyway,
Well, then it makes sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Third year. My bad. No, this year doesn't count, guys. It was just
Sure.
Yeah. Wow. Dang. How did I miss that up? Anyways,
You're an idiot, man. You're off the pod.
I don't like football. Yeah, I do. I think A&M's defense will shut down Tennessee. So I don't think they're going to need 31 whatever points, a ton of points to cover 14. I think they can do it relatively low scoring. So
Ryan missed both of these years.
Oh, nice. All right, Sun Belt Championship.
I'm left out.
Louisiana. What's that, Ryan?
I'm left out here.
Yeah, that's fine. We'll tell you after. Louisiana at Coastal Carolina. The Chants are favored 3.5. And if I set aside my bias, it might be intriguing to get 3.5 points with a talented team like Louisiana. But Coastal has been our team since the summer. And they've been more dominant than Louisiana through their schedule for sure. They've got a chance to go 12-0 with wins over BYU, App State, and it would be 2 over Louisiana. Like, that's just insanely. So yeah, give me Coastal. I'll roll with Grayson McCall. He's having an unbelievable year as a freshman quarterback. CJ Marable on the ground, the highly likely combo, wide receiver and tight end. We didn't even bring up last week their kind of miraculous last second win against Troy. I don't know about miraculous, but it was great.
Clutch.
Trojan
like.
Good word. Yes,
it was clutch. This is that rematch from earlier this year where Coastal squeaked it out. It's hard to go against our Chants, but I'm saying they're going to win, but I am going to take the Raging Cajuns to cover. Louisiana had an extra week to prepare. Michael, you touched on it. Coastal had to sweat out that game on the road at Troy, scratch and claw. And they're also, the Chants are going to be without their starting left tackle. And then Jamie Chadwell indicated that their linebacker, Gladney, he might play, but won't be 100%. So that might be something to watch. And Louisiana, they've paid their dues. They've been in this conference title game the last few years, lost to App State. Great game, great coaching matchup. Coastal wins, our Chants win, but I'll take Louisiana to cover.
Yeah, that's a respectable argument right there. But I'm going to go with the Chants. I'm not going with any ideas here. Just they're good, man. Grayson McCall is the most underrated quarterback nationally. He is so good. And that offense, I know they're going to be without their left tackle, but that offensive line is legit. I mean, they move people. They run the ball really, really well. So I don't know. I love their offense. So creative. Their defense is flying around. Give me the Chants, man. They'll beat Louisiana again here. That'd be sweet.
All right, we got the ACC Championship, a rematch between Clemson and Notre Dame in Charlotte. Clemson is favored 10.5. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, it's a rather bigger line after Notre Dame beat them. I know it was overtime and in Notre Dame, and it was over, and they didn't have Trevor Lawrence, but Uiagalelei was amazing in that game. So I'm not looking into that too much. I'm gonna take Notre Dame. I think they've proven that they're a legit team. I don't see them walking in there as any underdog. I don't see them walking in there intimidated. I think they're going in there knowing that they can win this game. And look what they did to North Carolina a couple weeks ago, and that amazingly high-powered offense. They shut them out in the second half, just completely. After that first quarter settled in, boom, North Carolina couldn't do anything. And we know how great that offense is. So I trust Ian Book. I trust their ground game. They're going to be solid on that, and I know. So I just don't see that good of a team getting blown out. Really, I mean, they don't have to get blown out, but I just don't see them by losing by more than 10.5. I think it'll be a good game. Actually, I'm going to make Notre Dame. Whoops! I hit my buzzer thing. Not bad. Getting a little
really
excited.
Oh, really excited for that lock.
Stop it, Ryan.
Lock of the day. Lock of the week.
Yeah, I mean, it is a big spread. Most ratings and metrics would maybe say this is too many points to give, but I'm going to lay them with Clemson. Notre Dame was fortunate to beat Clemson in South Bend. Clemson had a late lead with that freshman quarterback, Uiagalelei. But, credit Ian Book and the Irish. They came back and they won in overtime. And then I agree, Ryan, that North Carolina win was impressive. But I just think Clemson, since that loss, they annihilated Pitt, annihilated Virginia Tech on the road. This is when they traditionally peak. They're desperate since they know they pretty much have to win to get in the playoff, whereas Notre Dame is feeling pretty comfortable. Give me Dabo's boys.
All right, yeah, you make some good points there. And also to your point about picking Clemson, it wasn't just Trevor Lawrence that was missing for that Notre Dame game. They had a few other crucial players out, but now Tyler Davis is back on the defensive line. Mike Jones back at linebacker. James Skalski is supposed to be back for this game, so that'll help. It's a little, I don't want to say like a totally different team than Notre Dame faced earlier, but pretty different. But to me, I agree with Ryan. 10.5 is just too many points to lay. I think Notre Dame's a really good team, and I don't see the gap as quite that large. So give me Notre Dame. Moving on to the Mountain West Championship, Boise State is favored 6.5 against San Jose State in Las Vegas. Who do you like, Trey?
I hate to go against my Spartans this year. I've been following them all year, but I'm going to go with the top dogs of the conference, Boise. They've won 14 straight against Mountain West teams. San Jose State, they are one of the best stories in the country, but they had the 95th toughest schedule, so wasn't terribly difficult. Still impressive. And Boise, they weren't healthy all year, especially at quarterback. Now Bachmeier is there. I think he's going to outperform Starkel. Harsin also indicated that George Halani should be back after missing the last few games at running back. He was limited last week against Wyoming, but he said he should be more effective this week. I'm going to take the Broncos.
All right, I'm going to go the other way. I just looking at what Boise has done this year and what San Jose has done. Like, I don't think I think San Jose State's got a better resume. It's not like Boise's been blowing out teams in a way that San Jose State hasn't. They've both been, you look at similar opponents, it's kind of gone similarly. And I think, I love Nick Starkel, and I know that he was for Arkansas before, but he's totally different guy now, and he's got a good group of receivers. Bailey Gather, I think, is their leading receiver. So yeah, give me the Spartans.
Yeah, if you just kind of put the blinders on and don't look at who these teams are, just look at the resumes, like kind of almost like what Michael was saying. They're just I don't see much difference here. So I'm going to take San Jose State as well. I love the fact that they throw the ball over the yard, and I love the fact that they go deep. Like it feels like every other play. They're looking for Bailey Gaithers just running down the field. So they stretch that defense, and I just like the way it opens up. So Brett Brennan's done a great job. Spartans are a team of destiny this year. Not going to go against them.
All right, we got two more conference championships here. The AAC, we've got Tulsa at Cincinnati, and the Bearcats are favored 14. Unfortunately, we talked about basically no chance for Cincinnati to make the playoff, but still a lot to play for. An undefeated season and a New Year's Six bowl is on the line for them. If Cincinnati loses, then the winner of Coastal Louisiana is likely going to be that G5 participant in the New Year's Six. And I say Cincinnati wins here. Obviously, I mean, they're 2-touchdown favorite. And Tulsa 6-1, but not super impressive in how they got there. I do think, though, they have a good defense led by Zaven Collins. So I think they can keep it relatively low scoring, maybe in the low 40s, and 14 points is valuable there. So I'll take plus 14.
It'll be practically a full month since Cincinnati played their last game at UCF. So there's a little rust factor to worry about, but I am going to lay the points with Cincinnati. I think they're superior. Zach Smith, the quarterback for Tulsa, he's been a little prone to throwing interceptions, and now he's got to face one of the best defenses in the country. And Tulsa's been very fortunate. They threw a Hail Mary against Tulane to win a game. ECU, a ref blew a call. They're still good. But the fact that Ritter's kind of upped his game for Cincy's offense, I like Cincinnati to clinch that New Year's Six spot here.
Yeah, I like Cincy to win, but I'm going to take Tulsa to cover here. Kind of like Michael said, their defense is still pretty good, and I know Ritter has gotten better, but let's also not. I mean, I don't. Cincinnati's not some high flying, up tempo, crazy, high scoring offense. So I know Tulsa can still kind of muck it up a little bit, and I do like Zach Smith, and kind of like you mentioned, Trey, Tulsa they've managed to win. Hasn't looked all that great, but they've just kind of managed, and it's almost like a Northwestern type of feel. Like they just do it. I'm not going to go against it. So I mean, since he's the better team, but give me Tulsa plus the points.
All right, last game we got here, SEC Championship. Alabama 17-point favorite against Florida in Atlanta. Taking the Gators, Ryan, to win outright?
Yeah, no.
Oh,
sorry. I wish I could. I picked them before the year to be in the playoff, but that shoe toss just did me in. So not that
maybe
not that they were going to win this game anyways, but you never know. I'm going to take Bama. I've been doing it the last few weeks, even though they've been big favorites. And you're like, this is getting too big. It's getting too big. And each time they just like cover easy.
Yeah.
Can see them doing it again. I know Florida's going to get Kyle Pitts back for this game, which is ginormous. He's the best receiving threat maybe in the country. Kyle Trask and him I'm sure will put up some points, but that Florida defense just does not inspire me, right? LSU moved the ball pretty darn effectively against them in acclimate weather. And I don't know. I think Bama will kind of put up whatever they really want to. It could see like them getting up to 60 almost in this game. So
yeah.
I really do. I mean,
it could happen.
It wouldn't be that surprising, right? So yeah, I'll take Bama minus the points here.
If this was a normal full slate season, we'd be talking about Bama as one of the best teams we've seen. It still is. They've won every game.
Ole Miss game, right?
Yeah. But even so, they've won every game by at least double digits. And you touched on their spread. They've covered 7 in a row. So if you're a Gator fan, you're kind of telling yourself, hey, maybe you were looking ahead to this game. You didn't have Kyle Pitts. Like you're trying to make yourself feel a little better. And Michael, as you touched on that post-game win expectancy, they should have won. And just last week there was a look ahead line for this game, and it was around 12 or 13 points. So I'm not going to totally overreact to that one game. It wasn't good, I understand, but I'm going to hesitantly get in front of that Alabama train and take the points with Florida here.
Yeah, I'm with Trey. I mean, I've been obviously very high on Alabama since the beginning of the season. They were my national championship pick. And I feel like I've been picking them a lot, even with these big spreads the last few weeks. But I don't know. I mean, 17 points is just, for me, too many against Florida's offense. I just think great offense beats great defense. And so I think Florida, even though their running game's been mediocre, the passing game's incredible. So I think they can put up enough points to kind of hang in there. And like we said, the loss to LSU doesn't bother me that much because they outgained them per play by a huge edge. So I don't really think that much less of them. Like we say, Kyle Pitts is back. And so and even like a backdoor cover, even if they do get killed, I just feel like Trask could be throwing touchdown passes late. So give me Florida, and I'm going to make them my lock.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, the Heisman Trophy could be on the line here because there's 3 guys in this game who have a chance. You got Mac Jones, of course. Devonta Smith's been getting a ton of buzz lately. And then, of course, Kyle Trask. I feel like if Florida wins this and Trask has a big game, it's gonna be tough to deny Trask.
You think like if you're Mac Jones, you're like, I'm just not going to throw to Smith this
game.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way.
Minchie looks.
You know what? I think Minchie looks open right now.
Yeah, he's got it.
You know what? We should just run the ball a bunch.
Audible, Najee Harris.
Najee Harris is the man,
but not too much because Najee's kind of.
Yeah, he's hanging in there. Yeah. That would be really funny if he just like 0 targets for Devonta Smith. Good stuff. All right, well, let's close out this episode with a questionable finish. Mackenzie Milton announced he is transferring to Florida State. what is one of your favorite comeback stories in sports history?
I'm going to go with Seabiscuit and Red Pollard.
Oh,
No, thoroughbred horse from about 80 years ago or so. Seabiscuit ruptured his tendon in his front leg, an injury that is usually not a good sign for horses. But, not just their racing careers, of course. But then, of course, Red Pollard, he broke his leg in a fluke accident as well. So they both broke their legs and they're trying to recover. And boom, they come back and end up winning the Santa Anita Handicap. And it was just kind of a crazy kind of comeback for both of them.
all right. Well, mine is it's definitely not my favorite actually, but just kind of a memorable one was Brett Favre's 2009 season with Minnesota. Because the year before with the Jets, Favre had 22 touchdowns, 22 interceptions. But then very next year, 2009, he comes back. He's, of course, the drama with him retiring and whatnot. He had the lowest interception percentage in the NFL that year, and they almost made the Super Bowl. Of course, a late interception by him cost them the Super Bowl, but,
It's Favre.
Yeah.
I got to go just because I love him. Tiger Woods winning the Masters last year. I know some of his comeback was because of self-inflicted things, with the scandal and whatnot. But on top of that, numerous injuries, surgery, major back issue. He overcame it. Hadn't won a major in over 10 years. Wins the Masters. Great scheme.
Oh, your answer wins. Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, Tigers was awesome. It was.
All right, go on the record. Give me your prediction of the top 4 seeds in order after this weekend.
After this weekend, going pretty chalky. Alabama, Clemson, Ohio State, Notre Dame.
Ditto. That's what I'm going with.
Repeat.
All right. I thought you were just going to point at me, Ryan. The listeners can't hear you point. All right. Last question. We got to give an upset special, a 7+ point underdog to win outright. Give me Florida to win outright against Bama. I mean, obviously,
the Kyle twins, man.
Yeah, Kyle Trask for Heisman. Who knows? If Ole Miss can hang with them, I know Bama's defense wasn't playing as well back then, but you never know.
I'm going to go with Stanford. They're getting 7 against UCLA. They've won a few on the road, including at Washington and Oregon State last couple weeks. UCLA could be dejected after losing that heartbreaker in their rivalry against SC.
Yeah, fair enough. I'm going to go with the Golden Hurricane. I'm going to take Tulsa to knock off Cincinnati. Just think Tulsa's got a really good defense and they're an experienced QB as well. And plus, we had a little bit of a friendly chat in our Discord about this game. Our good friend in the Discord, Kenny, is he loves him some Cincinnati, and I get it. They're really, really good, no doubt about it. So I'm half-heartedly taking this just to give him a little nudge as well. Be like, oh, here you go, Kenny. This is for you, Kenny.
Fair enough. All right. Thanks for listening to the College Football Bros podcast. We realize that early signing period begins on Wednesday for recruiting. We always have a full recruiting episode for sure after the February signing day. We might have a few thoughts next week, but for the most part, I think we'll let 24/7 Sports cover recruiting. They do a pretty good job of that. But yeah, we're focused on championship week, so enjoy the games, and we will talk to you next week. Or if you join our Patreon, we'll see you on Thursday.
Please do.
You've been listening to the College Football Bros. If you have any questions for the next podcast, email them to collegefootballbros@gmail.com. To keep up with the brothers on social media, like them on Facebook at College Football Bros, follow them on Instagram at College Football Bros, and for their commentary on Saturdays, follow them on Twitter at CFB Bros. Thanks for listening.